profit for it? How can they make money and invest that money? Do governments need to support stuff more? All of that conversation to come as well. But waking up this morning after the Prime Minister was talking yesterday a lot about what the new world is going to look like when England comes out of lockdown on December the 2nd. Well, Boris Johnson has been explaining how the new tiers system in England will work. Hospitality faces tougher restrictions than before. All shops, gyms and hairdressers, crucially, before you all start texting in and calling us and everybody on my WhatsApp starts saying, yeah, but when are the hairdressers opening? That was the big question of the summer. Well, hairdressers will be allowed to reopen. There will still be 3 tiers, though, and we'll find out on Thursday this week which one different areas of the country will actually go into. Now, there's a few changes there as well, so it's not just back to where we were before this lockdown in England. Tier 1 will allow pubs and restaurants to open, but they'll need to take last orders at 10 o'clock. That's still the same, but you had to get out by 10 o'clock last time, whereas this time round you'll have another hour to finish your food and drink. So that's important, because as we've been hearing so much over the last month or two, lots of restaurants saying that could actually allow an extra sitting if they could actually allow people to sit and finish their drinks and food. Non-essential shops can reopen. Some good news for sporting events, business conferences as well. In Tier 1, limited numbers of people will be allowed to return. Let's jump to Tier 2. Pubs not serving substantial meals will have to close. If you remember, that was something that only affected those in Tier 3 before, so huge knock-on effect there. And now in Tier 3, all pubs and restaurants will have to close except for takeaways. Hotels and indoor entertainment venues will also have to shut, so that's something that feels a lot closer to the lockdown that those in England are in at the minute. The government says it will give local authorities more power to tackle businesses who are breaking the rules, and it'll say it wants bosses to do more to encourage people to work from home. Here's a little bit of what Boris Johnson had to say.
Christmas this year will be different, and we want to remain prudent through Christmas and beyond into the new year. But we will use the 3 tools that I've described to squeeze the virus in the weeks and months ahead. Tiering, testing, and the rollout of vaccines. Employing all 3 techniques together so as to drive down the infection rate.
Helen Sterling Baker owns Small Stuff, which is an eco-friendly toy and clothing store for toddlers in Sheffield. She tells us on Wake Up to Money she plans to work 7 days a week to try and make up for lost time.
We need to drive that traffic now in order to get through the quieter months. So right this moment, we're doing well, it's okay, but it's the sort of future-proofing it bit that I'm worried about, where I know that in January and the beginning of February, retail is quieter, it's going to be a different circumstance with everything else changing. So if we can drive as many people safely as possible through the doors during this sort of crucial last couple of weeks, then I think we should be okay.
So that's a view I'm sure taken by many retailers at the minute. For those in hospitality, not quite straightforward, is it? And I've got Anne Brooks with me, who's the manager of Dorbier Pub Group, which operates 44 pubs across the North East, the North West and the Midlands. Morning to you, Anne.
Hi, good morning, Sean.
How are you feeling this morning?
Oh, we're feeling very optimistic, but I don't think it's a good news for the pub industry as a whole. I think we'll continue to be in the same tiers as before the lockdown, so it's very unlikely that we're going to be open at all, or especially our estate with being community houses, will be able to be open at all from next week.
So where's the optimism coming from?
You need to keep optimistic at all times, don't you? We're praying for COVID vaccines. We've got to be optimistic. We've got people ready and waiting to open our public houses, given the opportunity. And unfortunately, it's not looking great for us at the minute. We've been given the extra hour, but unfortunately, you can't serve during that extra hour. So although you anticipate some revenue, it's not actually going to be happening.
I mean, do you expect much of a change in terms of your income because of that extra hour in those pubs that are going to be open after this lockdown that were open compared to before?
No, we're not going to be able to serve during that. The government website says 10 o'clock. So unfortunately, it's still the same service time. It's just the drinking up time that's been given an extra hour.
Do you serve food in many of your pubs?
Four of our sites serve food. Obviously, we have some country inns that do very well from the walkers and the ramblers of the Edale, and we have a couple of pubs in Blackpool. But no, the majority of them are community wet-led houses.
Right. So, in terms of those ones that can serve food, this thing about a second sitting, do you get many people who would be coming in after 9 o'clock, say, looking to sit down? No,
we don't.
So for you then, I admire the optimism, and that when the vaccines come in and if everything falls into place. We're all hoping that all 44 of your pubs could reopen at some point fully. But I just wonder, do you feel confident enough that they will be still there to reopen?
Well, no, it depends how long this is going to go, but people can't last forever, can they? The pubs are closed. You've got to remember that it's not all about alcohol. I think we're getting the situation confused that sort of COVID and alcohol sales are responsible for the spike in COVID infection. A lot of our pubs are 4 generations of the same family visit the pub, they meet together, they watch football together, they're not all about drinking alcohol and drinking late, and they are community hubs.
And have you seen an impact on those regulars in those community pubs because they've not been able to have that socialising aspect of their lives? What have you seen?
Yeah, without a doubt. The people are scared to come out and drink. They've got that. We've invested in track and trace at the start. We've probably spent £100,000 on track and trace. On compliance. We've invested in the Drink and Dine app, an ordering platform, so they can sit at the table and order the drinks and people. It isn't the same as they've got to come wearing masks and visors, and a lot of them haven't got the telephones that they can track and trace. So it's difficult for the older generations as well, and it's difficult to operate under those circumstances. We haven't had any at all COVID within our pub company. We've not had any COVID related. We've had to close any sites, and it just seems that the pub companies are being blamed for the spike in the COVID. And I don't feel that that's right.
That has a trickle effect into the confidence of customers, doesn't it? And let's see what happens Thursday and see who falls into what tier. Thank you for starting with the optimism anyway. It's always good, particularly first thing in the morning. It's good to get off on a front foot, and like a lot of businesses we speak to, a lot of people's thoughts will be with you over the coming weeks and months. Sam Brooks there, who's the manager of Dalby Air Pub Group, operates 44 pubs. Wayne Hemingway. Wayne, you've worked a lot on town centres, and that idea of building communities. When you see these pubs that are such a crucial part, it seems, of like British society not being able to open, how much of an impact will that have?
Well, it's awful, especially COVID has come at a there's no good time for it to come, is there? But the economic impact of it is obviously accelerating so much, and town centres, remember, we're on a steep decline. Decline's not the word really. Actually, I would say a transition, probably towards a better future. I'm also optimistic about that this morning as well. I'm optimistic every day about town centres' future. And we've got to remember that human beings make aberrations in their in their behaviour. And I think an aberration in town centres was that we thought, through parts of the 80s and into the 90s and probably just about into the noughties, that this concept of shop till you drop was a good, healthy human pastime, and that led to crazy things happening, like there was a fairly recent study by Trade at an overseas development charity, that 25% of all the clothing, that female clothing, I'll hasten to add, men were a bit less, but not that much less, 25% of all clothing is never worn. Now, that means that we've kind of fallen for this shop till you drop idea. And it ended up with repetitive high streets, repetitive town centres, full of stuff that you don't really need. And you only have to go back to when I was young, and town centres, yes, they were places you went shopping, but the first thing they were social places, and this is where pubs can come back into their own. The main thing of going into a town centre, as it was all the way back to the first town centre, to the Roman Forum, was human interaction. And that human interaction takes many forms. It can take the form of going, socialising in a pub, having a coffee, dancing. The main thing for me was going out dancing, watching bands, and the end result of that was that after we'd been out dancing, after we'd watched a band, I remember going to watch David Bowie, and the next day, then getting my hair cut, trying to be like him, then buying a pair of bright yellow trousers, then buying a record from the record store. It was a byproduct of human positive interaction, which was the leisure type thing, and it was the same. Being young, town centre was a place to meet, for something to eat before you went to Blackburn Rovers. But it wasn't the place that you thought about. I've got to spend more money on something, another blouse or another pair of shoes. It just wasn't that. And as soon as we get back to that, the better. It doesn't mean that town centres have to be diminished. They can be so much richer, and the spend can be just as high. And we did so many stupid things. The town centre, remember, was always full of where all the civic functions took place. And then we had some councils moving to purpose-built buildings outside of town, taking away 1,000 or 2,000 people who would have spent money in town at lunchtime. We've made some stupid errors, but the great thing is that the industry is rethinking. We're working with Landsec, one of the biggest developers, one of the biggest shopping centres. They own Blue Water and things like that, and at a very senior level now, and all the way through, it's getting to the point where people are really up for change. People are really thinking, actually, these temples to consumerism can still do as well as they've always done. They've just got to, restructure what they do. Have co-working there, have education as part of it, make them into places where you do more than just buy something you don't need.
Well, this is inspiring stuff there. If people are thinking, yes, my high street might be going through a bit of a tough time at the minute, my town centre could be your local high street. You don't necessarily need to be in that centre of the town or the city. And things are still kicking on. Do let us know your thoughts. You can get in touch, hashtag #WakeUpToMoney on social media. Send me a tweet. Get in touch that way. The way getting out to shop is so much of a part of their recovery, isn't it, one way or another? People in Northern Ireland are going to be given a voucher worth up to £200 to spend in shops as part of a multi-million-pound financial support package that was agreed yesterday. The country goes back into lockdown on Friday, with non-essential shops and businesses told to close their doors again. It's based on a similar scheme that's been running in Jersey as well, that would give every household a prepaid card which they could use at high street businesses. It costs about £95 million to run. Other measures include £20 million in support for company directors, £10 million for local councils, £10 million to sports clubs as well. I've got Stephanie English with me, who owns Checkpoint Charlie, which is a gift shop in Derry. Stephanie, morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
Morning. So, what would you make of this? 200 quid to spend in shops? Will the people of Londonderry be enjoying this?
I think it's an excellent scheme, and it certainly recognises the hardships that businesses are under. So it's excellent, and it's going to come in January, February. Traditionally quiet months for businesses, but probably even more so now, given the sort of COVID pandemic. So no, it's excellent. I would hope that, firstly that there would be some equity in the scheme in terms of, households who needed the most, benefiting the most from it. I'm not sure if it's such a good idea that it would be universal so that people who maybe don't actually need it get it. And secondly, I hope that there's equity in it in terms of, local businesses benefiting more than the sort of large shareholder-owned type of businesses, so that the wealth is kept local as a result of the scheme. But no, it's a fantastic scheme. I'm delighted.
And every business owner is a consumer themselves as well. If you end up with a 200 quid voucher in your hand, I mean, you look at your local high street. What would you be doing with it?
Well, being a parent, I'll probably be spending it on my family, but I'll do my best to spend it local and buy things that I actually need. I was really inspired listening to your previous guest, talking about, buying things that you just need, stuff, not buying stuff for stuff's sake. So I would be fairly conscious of that myself, even though I am a business owner. But I'll try my best to spend it locally and sensibly on stuff that I need.
And how are you feeling about lockdown the end of this week?
Well, obviously, it's not great that we have to lock down, but if it's necessary, I'm all for it. I always say that, with these restrictions and measures, I'll complain about it the day after I hear frontline staff working in A&E complain about it. So until then, I will just love the restrictions because I think that they're designed to benefit people,
Well, Stephanie, I'll tell you what, there are definitely many worse places to have a nice shop and a potter than Derry. I had my first walk on the city walls last year, and how have I not forced myself to do this before? It's one of the wonders of the UK. I'd put right up there. So
that's what every visitor says. Why haven't I been to Derry before now? So hopefully you'll return with us sometime soon.
I will do, definitely, and I'll keep an eye out as well for Checkpoint Charlie, that gift shop you've got there, Stephanie. Thanks so much, Stephanie English, there. On the new vouchers that will be coming in Northern Ireland, interesting concepts. Different areas of the UK trying different things. Will some be more successful than others and be expanded further across the UK? If you like the idea of them, let us know. 85058, hashtag Wake Up to Money. And if you want to get in touch on social media, of course, it is hashtag Wake Up to Money.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Right, it is 5:30 on Tuesday morning. Let's dig out the news headlines and we'll see where we're at. The BBC News headlines this morning: Donald Trump has accepted a formal transition of power to President-elect Joe Biden. Joe Biden has accepted that can begin 3 weeks after the US election. But Mr. Trump has promised to continue with legal challenges contesting the results. International travellers arriving in England will soon be able to reduce their self-isolation period from a fortnight if they pay for a coronavirus test after 5 days. The new system will come into force on the 15th of December. Talks aimed at providing a UK-wide plan to relax restrictions for Christmas are due to resume today. The leaders of all 4 devolved nations are trying to reach an agreement. And keep an eye out for the BBC's revelation of its list of 100 inspirational and influential women from around the world for 2020. Professor Sarah Gilbert, who heads the Oxford University research team into a COVID vaccine, is among those who have been recognised. There are the news headlines. Now for time for the sport.
Good morning. Southampton missed a chance to move back into the Premier League's top 3 last night by drawing 1-1 at Wolves. Theo Walcott put Saints in front with his first goal for the club since rejoining on loan from Everton before Pedro Neto equalised for the home side. Southampton remain 5th in the table with Wolves moving up to 9th. After 8 games, Burnley finally claimed their first league win of the season. Chris Wood scored the only goal of the game as they beat Crystal Palace at Turf Moor to move out of the bottom 3. Tonight the Champions League takes centre stage with Chelsea and Manchester United both in action. Rugby Union, there was one game in the Pro 14 last night. Munster won 27-13 at Glasgow to make it 6 wins out of 6 and to extend their lead at the top of Conference B to 11 points. And finally, the UK Snooker Championship got underway in Milton Keynes yesterday. The winners included Mark Selby, Mark Williams and John Higgins, all former champions. Two players, Ryan Day and Anthony Hamilton, had to pull out after testing positive for Covid-19. Their opponents, Jack Jones and Zhu Si, were both given byes to the second round.
That's the sports headlines with, that was Colm Harrison. Let's get the weather forecast for today. Here's Chris Fawkes at the BBC Weather Centre.
Good morning. Well, yesterday was a particularly chilly day for the time of year across central and eastern England, with temperatures quite widely just around 7 or 8 degrees. In Fylingdales in North Yorkshire, we only had a high of 6. But since then, a warm front's pushed across, and actually over recent hours, through the night, it's been getting milder and milder. So we're starting off on a mild note across the UK. Temperatures widely into double figures, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius or so. Now, for England and Wales, it might be mild, but it's also going to be a cloudy start to the day with a few patches of light rain or drizzle around western coasts and hills to start off with. A few patches of mist and hill fog here as well. Otherwise, a lot of cloud. Now, I suspect the cloud may well thin and break at times across parts of southeast England and East Anglia to allow some limited spells of sunshine, but otherwise I think the cloud is going to be pretty stubborn and with us for most of the day. Probably still continue to see a few patches of rain as well, affecting southwest England, Wales and across the hills of northern England for a time, even into the afternoon. It's going to be quite a windy kind of day, gusts reaching around 40, perhaps even 50 miles an hour around some of our Irish sea coast. Those temperatures on the mild side, 12 to 13 degrees. It's going to feel quite a lot different to how it did on Monday. Further north, meanwhile, for Northern Ireland and for Scotland, well, it's also a mild start to the day, but it's also a very wet start. We have a slow-moving weather front that's going to be bringing rain for most of the day, with some fairly large rainfall totals building up around the western hills in Scotland. Could see some localised surface water flooding here. Temperatures about 12 degrees Celsius, but turning a little bit fresher and cooler late in the day across the northwest as brighter weather tries to push in. That brighter weather is behind a cold front, and through Tuesday night and into Wednesday, the cold front pushes eastwards, bringing rain to many areas in the UK, but that front kind of stalls across East Anglia and South East England on Wednesday to bring a dull and damp wet day. For the rest of the UK on Wednesday, much brighter conditions with more in the way of sunshine, but it's going to feel quite a bit cooler. The temperature's about 8 to 10 degrees. Chris Fawkes, 5 Live Weather.
The Premier League.
Here's a chance. What is it? He scores! Burnley's first home goal in the Premier League this season. Celebrations all over the place. There's a super pass played through there as well in the build-up. Palace defenders looking at each other a little bit perplexed. The goal, the first that Burnley have scored here at home all season.
On Friday, it's Crystal Palace against Newcastle. Kickoffs at 8 p.m. The Premier League on 5 Live. Wake up to me with Sean Farrington.
Good morning.